Now, you also work with Billy Joe Saunders. Before we talk about him, I talked to Josh about this yesterday and he was a bit vague. What happened on the plane? Or off the
Basically,
plane?
what did Josh say?
No, you tell me and then we'll compare notes.
Right, basically, one of the lads that was on the camp with us, Tom, did actually say something to Billy Joe about something along the lines of not feeling great. I don't know exactly what was said, but he said something along the lines of
Yeah,
not feeling great.
I know Tom.
So while we was at the airport, just about to board the plane, Billy Joe phoned the airline up, obviously in support of Tom, making sure that he and everybody else was okay on the plane, to say that he's not been feeling great, and obviously with flights being cancelled left, right, and centre, we were waiting in the airport for about 7 hours. So just as we were about to board, I'm thinking, "Where's Tom?" So I've gone to look for Tom, and Tom's been sectioned and held off on one side of the airport. So I went over and obviously asked what was going on, and when they explained it, I just started laughing because we'd been waiting for 7 hours. It was like right before we was about to get on the plane, so I started laughing, and the man who was working for the airline, he didn't seem to have the same sort of outlook on it, and basically told me and Josh to get away and get on the plane. But we got on the plane, but I just kept laughing because I found it funny. We'd been waiting for 7 hours, and then this has happened, and Tom wasn't going to be able to get on the flight. They didn't like that we was laughing, so we got pulled off the plane, and they just rebooked us for the next day. But Billy Joe was just looking out for Tom and everybody else on the plane.
How is Tom now?
Tom's all right. We made it back. We just went back to the house, stayed at the house overnight, and then come back. So
And was it just the sniffle in the end?
just a sniffle in the end. He was all right.
No full body search or anything?
No.
Jesus. Talking of Billy Joe, before all this happened, how close was the Canelo fight to being formally announced?
Yeah, listen, obviously we was over there preparing for it to be Canelo. I know where your next question's going to be. Do I think that that's going to happen next? Still, I don't know. That's not my job. There's so many questions at the minute. All we can focus on is just, as I say, trying to make sure that the fighters are the best that they can be.
Yeah, I mean, you said whether it's still going to happen next. There's obviously been rumours out there, even before the controversy with Billy Joe came out, that Canelo was thinking of going straight into a September trilogy fight with Triple G. That'd be pretty kind of hard luck on Saunders, regardless of what you think of him as a person. I know people have differing views, but he's chased these sort of fights for a long time, and for the coronavirus to scupper it when it was right close to happening, that'd be devastating.
Yeah, it would. He's been world champion since 2015. We're now in 2020. And he's the other champions at that time were in the same weight categories with Danny Jacobs, Golovkin, and Canelo. They've all fought each other, rematches, whatnot, and Billy Joe's been the only one that's sort of been left out. I understand, when you take other things into consideration, like Billy Joe's style, these sorts of things, when you take that into consideration, I do understand. I also understand that Billy Joe's probably not been overly consistent, but when you've been waiting for those big tests and those big matchups, like we see with Tyson, it's the same, and we've seen it through Billy Joe's career that when they've not got that challenge, it's not going to bring the best out of them, and no pressure, no diamond, as they say. If you're running a 100-meter race and you're running it on your own, you're not going to get as good of a time as you're going to get if you put somebody in there who's offering a challenge. And I think that's the best. That's the same with Billy Joe, and we know that's the same with Tyson. And for me, I just putting the coaching to one side. I want to see Billy Joe be able to test himself against the absolute best, and at the minute that is Canelo. So it's frustrating, but we can only do what we can do.
I mean, yeah, the fighting against the very best obviously brings out the best in fighters. This kind of feeds into the debate we were having on Twitter yesterday about Mayweather and Sugar Ray Leonard and who brought out the best in them. But with Billy Joe, if the Canelo fight doesn't come off, it obviously opens the door for a domestic fight, perhaps, against Callum Smith, which is still a big fight. But there's the small issue, or maybe not small issue, of Billy Joe's licence at the moment. Have you had any kind of talk with the board, or have you got any idea what might be happening with that?
No, I don't know. I'd be very, very shocked if there was like a suspension or there was a ban or something like that. Because what does that benefit sufferers, potential sufferers, or ex-sufferers of domestic violence? Absolutely nothing. Billy Joe's come out and said that he's willing to put on some self-defense workshops and donate a section of a sum of his next purse to a domestic violence charity. That's something that's going to benefit. And I don't know if the board had something to do with that and have said that's what they want him to do. I don't know. But that's something that's going to benefit and actually take action to help that scenario that you're talking about there. So a suspension isn't going to do anything for anybody. So I don't see that happening. But again, it's a guessing game. Is Canelo and Golovkin going to happen straight away? What will happen with the IBF with Golovkin? What weight will it be at? There's so many question marks, so we just got to sort of sit tight at the minute. Unfortunately, listen, it's very, very, I know everybody would want to know, and I want to know more than anybody. So, it's definitely frustrating.
And just while we're on the subject of Billy Joe and the board's actions and stuff, when you first heard about the news or saw the video, whichever one came first, what was your initial reaction? Were you just like, oh, for God's sake,
Yeah, it's just a bit basically hand on face sort of thing, it's one of them, innit? Unfortunately, listen, he put it on, took it off pretty quickly, but you know what social media is like this day and age. People get hold of a video and it can spread like wildfire, and unfortunately, that's what happened.
He means well, though, doesn't he? He just doesn't seem to have that filter or that self-awareness.
Do you know what?
Picture.
Billy Joe's not the type of guy that's going to do a good deed and put the camera on it to say, look what I just did, But he's done so much and so many good things that people don't know about. So people don't actually see a certain side to him. People sort of see it similar to what Tyson was like, where they see his sort of WWE character, so to speak. And for me, it's frustrating because I want everybody to see what people close to him see. And unfortunately, it's not always the case. But what can you do? It's one of them situations.